Yes, guys, welcome back to the LG Fitness Podcast. I hope you are doing well and I hope you're having a good week and I hope you're having a good day so far, or whatever time you're listening to this. I hope you are doing well. I was going to record this on a different platform today, um, but I'm just going to continue recording it on Zoom. I found a different service and I've been playing around with it, but let's not run before we can walk. We're only 12 episodes in or so. I think this is the 13th episode. Um, so yeah, I thought let's not get complex. Let's not get carried away and get all fancy about it. Let's just keep recording on Zoom and get some content out to you guys. So yeah, 13 episodes in. I think we're averaging at like 9 plays an episode, although one of those plays is me. So averaging like 8 plays an episode. So every time I record the podcast, I will then listen to it back and just make sure it's good. Really, I upload it anyway. It's not that I re-record it. I just like to listen to it back, see where I can make improvements, see if there is any changes that I can make, and just essentially review, similar to what I would do with clients. Right? Is review their weeks, review their training sessions, review their nutrition targets, all of those types of things, just to ensure that they're making progress, to ensure that they're hitting their targets and getting results, or certainly moving in the right direction that they want to be. And if they're not, why not? And how we can sort of adjust that. So that's sort of what I would do with my clients when looking at their training plans, when looking at their nutrition plans, is just a little weekly check-in, see how they're getting on, so that we can adjust the plan if need be, or just give them a little clap and say, yeah, well done, you're doing great. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing what you're doing because you're on the right track. And I think that reassurance definitely can help people. And that's sort of why I listen back to the podcast, is just to have a little listen, review it, what went well in that, what didn't go so well, what can I improve on next time, so that then, again, like I said, I'm hopefully making progress. Hopefully you guys that have been listening to since the start at least have noticed an improvement in the podcast. I believe I've seen sort of improvements. I feel a lot more comfortable doing it. So yeah, that's obviously great, and hopefully the content is being coming across in a good way, and I hope you're enjoying it. So like I say, always appreciate you guys that are listening. I think I said to someone the other day, I said I'm it's quite surreal. I'm quite surprised that people would actually tune in and listen to me for 15-20 minutes of their week. So yeah, I do very much appreciate it. So thank you if you are listening. If you want to leave a review, then that would be really helpful also. I won't take too long now to get into it. I want to get straight into this topic today. I know I've been giving you a bit of an update on my training. Training's just been sort of a standard week, getting back into the groove after a deload last week. So yeah, just trained, got my sessions in, got my cardio sessions in, and just moving along nicely. So it's been nice to get back into it. And I think taking a deload, sometimes taking a little bit of a break and recovering, will massively help you get refocused, get re-motivated again, and allow you to hit training hard again. So yeah, that's how my training has been. Like I said, I don't want to go too in depth on it. Let's get straight into today's topic. So as you would have seen already by the title, today we're going to talk about how you can create an optimal training plan. Now, firstly, what do I mean by optimal? So as you will know, obviously, if you know what optimal means as a definition, but like when it comes to your training, how do we create optimal? So if we have a scale and at one end we've got suboptimal and the other end we've got optimal, where do you sit on that scale? And if you're not training at all, by the way, then you're not even on the scale. Suboptimal is, yes, you're training, but your training is not really very effective for the goals that you're looking to achieve. So if your goal is to run a marathon and you're training and you're not doing any running, then that would be pretty suboptimal training in my opinion anyway. Um, but yeah, if you weren't training at all, then you're not even on the scale. So how do we take your training from where it is right now to more optimal, more effective? How can we actually do that? And how can we get the results that you're looking for in the best possible way? Now, we also have to look at what's realistic for you, because if we, again, we look at that scale of suboptimal and optimal, is optimal training going to be realistic for you? If you've got a 9 to 5, if you've got kids, If you've got other commitments outside of training, then is it realistic to have an optimal plan, like an optimal, the most perfect plan in the world that, training is dialed, recovery dialed, nutrition dialed, everything is dialed in and geared around your performance? Probably not, because training is not your life, right? If you are, a high level bodybuilder or you're a high level athlete or something like that, then your training is going to be so optimal, because that's your livelihood, right? For the everyday person, myself included, our training is not our lives. It's not our livelihood. It's not how we make money. So it does not need to be optimal. Now, how do we make it optimal for our goals is a different question. Or how do we make it as optimal as possible for us to achieve our goals? Well, firstly, we have to ask, well, what is the goal? So for many of you, you're probably listening, you think, I want to lose body fat, I want to build muscle, I want to maybe, you know, whether it is run a marathon or something like that, some sort of performance-based goal, you might have one of those. Now, the first thing that we need to do is get very clear on what it is that we want to achieve. Have we got a time frame on it? Have we got a reason why we want to achieve it? Those things are going to be important, because then we can start to look at how we can set up a plan in the best way. So let's take fat loss, for example. If you want to drop body fat, if you want to look leaner, if you want to look more toned, which effectively just means having a little bit of muscle, having a little bit more muscle, and losing a little bit of body fat, then how do we go about that in the best way? Well, first of all, what are the things that we need in order to drop body fat? Well, firstly, we need to make sure that we are in a calorie deficit. So how can we set up our nutrition in a way that helps us create a calorie deficit? So obviously, we have to navigate things like hunger. We have to navigate things like social occasions. So how can we do that in the best possible way so that you can actually enjoy your life and actually make progress consistently as well? Because that's, again, a big thing, is consistency. We can have the best plan in the world, but if you can't be consistent with it, then it's no good to anyone. Which is why I say, if you go for the most optimal plan, which is, perfect, quote unquote, then are you going to be able to stick to it? Probably not. So going back to the fat loss goal, we need to make sure that we're in a calorie deficit. So when it comes to exercising, it's going to be beneficial for us to make sure that we're doing some form of resistance training. That's going to help us maintain the muscle that we've got, so that when we are losing weight, that weight comes from fat rather than fat and muscle. So that is the key thing that we want to consider, is right, okay, we need to be doing some form of resistance training. Minimum 2 times a week. Can we train each muscle 2 times a week is going to be a pretty good starting point, making sure that we're maintaining that muscle, so that when we are, like I said, losing weight, it is coming from body fat rather than fat and muscle. So if the goal is fat loss, can we set up a plan that helps you stay in a calorie deficit? Can we help you maintain the muscle that you've got so that you are achieving the goal of fat loss? Now, when it comes to the exercises that you pick, if your goal is to lose fat and just maintain a little bit of muscle, then you maybe don't really need to be that specific on the exercises that you choose. You might just do the exercises that you enjoy doing. So we'll take deadlifts, for example. Now, deadlifts, I personally don't enjoy deadlifting, so I don't include them in my program. If your goal is to build as much muscle as possible, then deadlifts is probably not an exercise that you would look to include within your program if we're talking from an optimal standpoint. The reason being is deadlifts very fatiguing. It's a very fatiguing exercise. If you do very heavy deadlifts, you are going to feel that. Not only are you going to feel that from fatigue perspective, but your actual nervous system, your central nervous system fatigue as well, is going to be affected from that. So your ability to recover from a session of heavy deadlifts is going to be much greater than a heavy session of bicep curls, for example, because it's a much bigger movement. There's a much greater demand. However, the issue with the deadlift is what muscle group does it specifically target? And if the goal is muscle growth, we want to be very sure of what muscles we're targeting. Now, with the deadlift, like I said, is it a quad exercise? Is it a hamstring exercise, glute exercise? There's a little bit of rear delts in there. There's a bit of lower back. It's not really anything specific that's gonna cause muscle growth. And I'm not saying that you can't build muscle from doing deadlifts, but if we're talking about an optimal plan for muscle growth, is a deadlift, which is very, very fatiguing, which is going to take a lot out of you recovery wise, but not actually target or stimulate any particular muscle to a great enough degree to elicit muscle growth. Is that a good exercise to choose within a muscle building plan? Probably not. However, if you really, really enjoy deadlifts and you can't stick to a plan unless you have deadlifts in it, then we'd probably look to include some deadlifts. But this is the key for when it comes to muscle building is, can we create the biggest stimulus on specific muscles without accumulating large amounts of fatigue? So again, it's managing your plan. So again, I'm not going to put deadlifts, squat, leg press, split squats all in your lower body session. Why? Because all of those movements are very, very fatiguing. By the end of your session, you're really going to struggle to get the most out of it to create enough of a stimulus to produce muscle growth come the end. So we want to include things like a leg extension, a seated leg curl, calf raises, those things, maybe more isolation work, so that we can target specific muscles. We can train to a close proximity to failure to elicit the muscle growth that we actually want. So again, if our goal is to drop body fat, then most important thing, we need to create a calorie deficit. Exercising around that, making sure that we're doing some sort of resistance training to make sure that we maintain muscle is going to be important. Everything outside of that is, just do what you want. Just do what you want. Do the exercises that you enjoy. If you want to do a bit of cardio, do a bit of cardio, great. Get out, walk. That's going to be a pretty good plan if your goal is to drop body fat. If your goal is to build muscle, then you need to be a little bit smarter about your training. Certainly, if you want to build as much muscle as possible. If you just, I don't know, I just want to build a little bit of muscle, maybe be a little bit bigger, then again, looking at your diet is going to be a first thing. Is, can we look at the diet? Can we look at maybe going into a slight surplus, maybe at least get into maintenance and being consistent with the maintenance? But ideally, for muscle growth, we want to be in a slight surplus. Then we're going to look at your training. Can we get exercises that you can perform well, that don't cause a huge amount of fatigue, but create a big enough of a stimulus to elicit adaptations in terms of muscle growth? Obviously, then as well, we need to look at sleep. We need to make sure that we're managing recovery, because that's going to be important as well. If you can't recover from your training sessions, then you're going to struggle to build muscle. So making sure that we're sleeping enough, make sure that we're eating enough, especially like protein and things like that, good quality food sources, is going to be very, very important if our goal is to build muscle. So that are things that we want to focus on in order to create a plan that's optimal. Again, when it comes to muscle growth, is making sure that we're training to each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week. And again, depending on what muscle you want to grow more, is potentially doing more sets of that muscle, reducing sets on other muscles, and overall managing fatigue is going to be really important. There's no point, just because you do more doesn't mean that that equals better. If you do more and you're not able to recover from it, then you will struggle to build muscle. So it's all things that you have to consider when trying to create an optimal plan. Is, can I train each muscle 2 to 3 times a week? Can I make sure that I'm recovering well? Can I push these sessions close to failure? Can I make sure that I'm sleeping? All of that sort of stuff is going to be very important when it goes into your training plan. Looking at, again, exercises that aren't going to be super fatiguing. So I use the deadlift example. Deadlift's great exercise, for overall strength. Muscle building, maybe not so great. However, if your goal is performance, or if your goal is strength based, maybe powerlifting, then deadlifts are going to be a very good exercise to include within your training. So perhaps you want to get better within your sport. Maybe you play rugby, maybe you play football, whatever it is. A deadlift is a very, very good exercise to build overall strength, and one that if you are trying to improve in those areas in the more performance-based world, and obviously in powerlifting, then one of the main three exercises is a deadlift, then deadlifting is going to be very important to ensure that you're getting better at the technique, to ensure that you're getting stronger on that exercise. So again, if we look at a performance perspective, athletic performance, can we include a lot more compound movements? So things like deadlifts, things like squats, leg presses, bench presses are going to be very helpful if we want to get overall strength gains and we want to improve our athletic performance. Now, obviously, we then need to look at, can we include some cardio, getting a different amount of specific types of cardio. So we're getting a good amount of zone 2. So low intensity, steady state cardio is going to be key to just build that aerobic base. Can we also expose ourselves to that zone 4, zone 5, much higher intensities, as that's going to help with VO2 max. That's also going to help with our overall speed. So can we sprint, and are we able to recover from those sprints? If you play football and you have like a great cardio base, but you're not able to sprint for more than 2 seconds, then you're going to struggle, especially if you can't recover from that. If you do one sprint and then you're absolutely knackered, then again, you're going to struggle in a performance world sporting environment. So again, depending on your goal, it's going to impact what is optimal in terms of the exercises that you choose, in terms of how often you train. Again, if you are playing football on Saturdays, is an optimal plan going to have you training legs on a Friday evening? No, probably not. However, if your goal is to build muscle and you don't play any sport, then training legs on a Friday evening is not an issue. And same again, obviously, if you're playing rugby and stuff, it's just making sure that you're managing your recovery around those events. So again, if you're a marathon runner, if you love running and you like to do park runs, you like to do 5Ks, 10Ks, and you like that performance aspect of trying to beat your personal bests, then making sure that your training is working around those. If that's your goal, then you want to be fresh and ready to go for those 5Ks, for those 10Ks. So if you're running a 5K or a 10K on a Sunday, again, you're not training legs on a Saturday night. You're going to be saving legs for earlier in the week or like a Tuesday, so that then you can actually recover throughout the week. And again, same when it comes to volume of training. For myself, I play football on Saturdays. I also play midweek. I do one leg session a week. I do it on a Monday, so it's early doors. Then I've got training on a Wednesday, sometimes a game on a Wednesday, and then I've got a game on a Saturday. So my leg session is as far away from match day as possible, so that my legs are nice and recovered. Then I do two sessions of upper body, and then obviously I do my cardio around that. But it's just planning around these things, planning around your goals, and making sure that you're well rested, well recovered, and you're getting the absolute most out of your training. Now, like I said, if your goal is to build muscle, if your goal is to drop body fat, and you're not interested in performance from a sporting aspect, then yes, it's still important that you're managing your recovery. But again, you can have a little bit more freedom around when you plan your days. So again, it's just making sure that you have enough recovery between sessions, making sure that you're not doing legs on a Monday followed by legs on a Tuesday. It's going right, legs, big, especially big compound movements like your squats, like your deadlifts and things like that, is those movements are going to need a little bit more time to recover from, especially if you're doing much heavier sets, heavier loads. Then it's going to require a lot more recovery for your body. So giving yourself 2-3 days in between. If you're training arms, for example, and you're looking to build your muscles in your arms, they're going to recover a lot quicker than what your legs will. So for example, you might be able to train arms on a Monday, you might be able to be recovered and train them again on a Wednesday. Probably unlikely if it's legs. So making sure that your recovery is also accounted for, making sure that you've got rest days, making sure that you're planning when you're training what is going to be very, very key in order to create a most optimal plan. Now, again, like I said, optimal, it's how realistic it is for you to get as close to optimal as you can, because you want to ideally get as optimal as you can, but without sucking the fun out of your life. Because if you have the most optimal, most perfect plan, it will suck the fun out of your life. Because like I said at the start, this is not your life. This is not your livelihood. You don't need to train in a perfect way to get results. So again, looking at your goal first. What is your goal? Get very specific on it, because once you're very specific on what it is you want to achieve, why you want to achieve it, whether or not you've got a time frame as well, will play into that. Then you can start setting up your training program in terms of the exercise selection, what days you're going to train, when, and that will help you get into a much better routine. Secondly, then you want to start looking at, well, what do you enjoy? Because enjoyment is key. Like I said, you don't want to suck the fun out of your life. If you're not doing exercises that you enjoy, then chances are you're not going to stick to it long term. So again, when we look at the most optimal exercise, is we could say, let's say, for example, and I'm not saying that this is the case, let's say, for example, a hack squat is better for building your quads than a leg press. It might be for some people. For some people, leg press is going to be the better option. For some people, hack squat is going to be the better option for building quads. Now, let's say for person A leg press is better for building quads than the hack squat, for example. This person, again, it depends on your build and things like that. But person A, leg press, better for building their quads than the hack squat. But they absolutely fucking hate the leg press and they love the hack squat. Well, okay, the optimal thing to do would be to do the leg press, because they're gonna grow more quads on the leg press. However, they fucking hate it. So why would I get someone to do something that they hate just because they might gain a little bit more muscle from doing so? Again, and this is where the optimal side of things comes in. Well, yes, optimally, they do a leg press because that works better for them and they're going to build more quads. But they really enjoy the hack squat. They really, really enjoy it. They like doing it. They look forward to it every session. They're probably going to push harder. They're probably going to get more out of it. They're going to stick to it longer to see better results as well. So that's really, really important, is picking exercises that you enjoy, picking the ones that work well for you as well, trying to have that bit of a balance. I'm not saying just pick only exercises that you enjoy. Sometimes you might have to do a few things that you maybe don't like, but that's okay, as long as the majority of your plan is something that you enjoy, something that you can look at and go, yeah, I can stick to that for at least 8-12 weeks, and then you might make some tweaks and things like that. But this is what I mean by optimal. For, like I said, for someone, it might be leg presses grow quads more than the hack squat. But if they really, really enjoy the hack squat and they really, really hate the leg press, then let's go for the hack squat. You're going to be far more consistent. You're going to stick to it for longer. And if you can stick to it for longer, then you're going to get better results. Yes, if you love the leg press, then yeah, we're going to opt for the leg press because it's better for you. But in that situation, in those circumstances, let's go for what you enjoy, because you're going to stick to it long term. And this really is the key. And this is, I suppose, the main take home from this podcast is, it doesn't matter how perfect the plan is. If it doesn't fit your life, if you don't enjoy it, and if you can't be consistent with it, then it doesn't matter how perfect the plan is. That plan is useless, because you're not going to stick to it, you're not going to enjoy it, and you're not going to get results for it. You might stick to a perfect plan for 1 week, 2 weeks, but I'd rather you stick to an okay plan for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, longer. If you can stick to something for a long period of time, then that is the plan that you should follow. If you look at a plan and you go, I'll give it a go for a few weeks, see how we get on, it's probably not the plan for you. If you look at something and you go, yeah, that sort of fits my lifestyle, that's something that I could see myself doing for 3 months, 6 months, longer, then that's the plan that you want to follow. Because once you've got a plan, once you've got some consistency, then you can start making tweaks. Then you can start looking at your plan at a deeper level, tweaking exercises, making them feel a lot nicer, making them a little bit better for you as an individual, maybe swapping a couple of exercises out, trying new things. And this is what will help you get results long term. And this is exactly what I do with my clients is we take them from where they are right now, implement some small changes into their lifestyle. Then after a good period of consistency, then we start to take a deeper look into their training. Then we start to look at how we can make the plan a little bit more optimal. But the main thing that you want to do is create a plan that you can stick to. Because as I said, if you don't stick to it, if you can't see yourself sticking to it, then it doesn't matter how good the plan is. It's fucking useless if you can't stick to it. So I hope this episode made sense. I hope you took something away from it. As I say to you guys, if you do enjoy the podcast, please drop it a like, drop it a review, share it on your Instagram or social media, wherever. Let's get this to more people. It would be great if we can get to 20 episodes. So this is episode 13. If by the 20th episode we can get to 200 views, then I'll do some sort of giveaway. Actually, let's do that. So if we can get to 200 views, then I'll do some sort of giveaway. If you want to give me some suggestions of what, I'll have a little think about it. I've literally just thought of that off the top of my head right now. So I'll have to go away and think about what sort of giveaway I can do. But yeah, let's do that. Let's get to 200 views and I'll do a bit of a giveaway when we get to 200, or not 200 views, 200 listens, sorry. But yeah, if you want to get in contact, if you want to see more sort of daily fitness content, then follow my Instagram at Lewis Graham Coaching. If you want to get in touch, if you've got any questions for the podcast, then email me, lewis@lewisgrahamfitness.co.uk, or you can visit my website, www.lewisgrahamfitness.co.uk. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one. Take care.